One of the most obvious interactions between humans and plants is agriculture. Today, we will look into the what, the why, the when, and the how of agriculture. We will also discuss the environmental impact of agriculture. Let's start off with a video. This is a video by the American Museum of Natural History about the human population through time. It will show us the process of human dispersal from Africa, significant events in history, as it shows the trend of global human population growth, and also a projection of the future trend of human population growth. Now, I want you to identify which part of the history would show a sudden surge in growth in human global population. Okay, so let's start now this video. Right, that was a very interesting video. Of course, this is very important to know that the more people are there on our Earth, the more mouths to feed, and the more it would have a great toll on the resources, which are limited. And it's good to hear that they are seeing a leveling off of the population growth, and hopefully it will slow down the growth. The growth will slow down so that it will lessen the pressure on Earth's resources. Sorry about that. So, um, as you have seen in the video, one of the reasons for the increase in population through time was the birth of farming, agriculture. And agriculture can be broken down into the word agrostis or agrestis and culture. Agrostis refers to grass, or agrestis, which refers to fields. And it gives you an idea that agriculture started as the cultivation of grasses, which is actually true. Grasses like wheat, rice, and corn are the major sources of carbohydrates globally. And so this definition of agriculture is quite old. So right now, when we define agriculture, we refer to growing crops and also raising livestock. Now, when did agriculture began or begin? So when agriculture began, there's a shift from the food gathering a method or lifestyle of humans to cultivation. So this resulted in a sedentary human civilization that we are right now. So when did agriculture start? Now, based on carbon dating, it started between 12,000 to 15,000 years ago. And by the end of 2000, or by 2,000 years ago, most civilizations were sustained by agriculture. Now, where did agriculture begin? There are actually a few center of origins of agriculture, and these are independent origins. So apparently, they did not. So this center of origins, they did not start because of, or they are not influenced by other sources or centers of origin. So what are the where are the centers of origin of agriculture? So this map shows us the location of the centers of origin, and they believe that agriculture started in these regions. The one in green, the early Holocene, which is around 12,000 to 8,000 years before present. And these are in Mexico, somewhere in Mexico, green one. The Fertile Crescent, which is the Middle East, spanning modern day Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Israel, Palestine, Jordan, Egypt, and regions of Turkey, and some parts of Iran. And you have China, and you have um, some portions of the South America. So these are the places where agriculture independently originated. And we can see here examples of crops that they have started domesticating in those areas. So you have corn. This is just an example. There can be a few more. You have potato in South America. You have wheat in the Fertile Crescent, rice in China, and you have banana. This is not the original one. This came later. Sorry. And you have centers of origin that came later, around 8,000 to 4,000 years before present. So you have here somewhere in North America where they domesticated sunflower. You have here another part of South America. In Africa, you have sorghum. In India, you have millets and banana in New Guinea. So those ones with solid lines, there are, sorry about this. So it's those are the ones that are widely accepted centers of independent domestication. And the arrows shows us the direction of diffusion from the center. So let's answer this question. Did diffusion propagate agriculture to other areas of the world? If you're talking about the four independent origins, the answer is no. If you're talking about the later form agriculture or centers of domestication, like for example over here or over here, then the answer is yes. Now, did agriculture develop independently around the world? Yes, the answer is yes. If you are referring to this first, to these areas where first domestication or agriculture started. Now, another question. After 3 million years of foraging, what? Wow, that was so long. 3 million years of foraging, hunting and gathering. Why on earth did farming emerge from the end of the last age, 12,000 years before the present? That's a very interesting question. 3 million years of experience in hunting and gathering, and then suddenly people started farming. Why? So there are several hypotheses for this. So one is the dump heap hypothesis, which tells us that garbage sites might have been the breeding ground for various species. So you can imagine this like having a group of humans, and then after eating like a food plant, they maybe have thought of like throwing out the seeds. So they have this garbage area, you know, where they throw the seeds or the leftover of their food, and then after a while they saw plants growing from those sites, and they said, oh, maybe we could plant this food crops or these plants. We can grow them. And then Eureka hypothesis, which is just like a sudden bright idea came to your mind. It was like, okay, let's do agriculture. But I don't think there's a lot of support for this hypothesis. Then you have increased familiarity hypothesis, where agriculture began as more people become more familiar with plants. As they get to know more plants, they have seen, they have observed the life cycle of plants, and they see that plants produce seeds, which will start a new plant, a new generation of plants. So they figure out, yeah, maybe we could plant this and grow our own plants. So why did agriculture begin? Um, why did humans within a short period of time and in different places suddenly adopted an agrarian way of life? Was this part of the evolution of civilization from primitive to modern? From maybe some people think that the hunting and gathering way or lifestyle is like primitive, and what we have right now is a modern way of living. You can look at that in that perspective. But to answer this question, if agriculture is part of the evolution of civilization, of course, the answer is no, because there are a few groups of people. For example, Kung. or Kung in southern Africa, they are still living the foraging life. So they are the modern day hunter and gatherers of the Kalahari Desert in South Africa, and they've looked into the diet of this people, because you might think that because these people are continuously moving and hunting and foraging, they might have not enough resources, or they might have not, good nutrition in their diet. But actually, they have seen that these people are not nutritionally deprived, and their diet is more than adequate. And they have just chosen not to grow plants. This is a very interesting result. Now, one of the reasons they try to link to answer the question why agriculture began is the changing climate hypothesis. So, as the name implies, there was a change in the climate in the Near East. So, Near East refers to the Middle East, where the Fertile Crescent used to be, or historically known as the Fertile Crescent, some parts of it. So, a changing climate leads to a desiccation in the Near East, so that cause people to huddle together in oasis area where you have fertile ground, and that resulted in a less mobile lifestyle of people. So you have people in one place going together, and it's impossible for them to move around because of the changing climate, and you need a lot of mouths to feed. So they were forced to innovate, and the result was agriculture. And related to that is the population pressure hypothesis. So this is without the climate change factor. So they thought that population increasing, so we need to have a very reliable source of food. We don't we don't need to always search for it. So that's a population pressure hypothesis. Now, another one is the food abundance hypothesis. So this is easy to understand if you are thinking of a society or a community living close to bodies of water, where you have abundance of food, like fishing villages. Yep. So as you can see, most first the locations of the first civilizations are actually close to the waters, because you can find life in water. So there's abundance of food there. So why don't you just settle close to the body of water? So the abundance of food led to a sedentary lifestyle, and that eventually led to the experimentation with agriculture. Now, recently I came across this paper, and they provided evidence for this hypothesis to explain the origin of agriculture. And this is the surplus hypothesis. And this is also somehow related to the climate change hypothesis, because there is an involvement here of environmental factors, such as increase in atmospheric carbon dioxide and temperature at the end of the Pleistocene. So Pleistocene is where you have more periods of ice age. So at the end of the Pleistocene, there was an increase in the atmospheric carbon dioxide and temperature, and that change favored increase in productivity. So if you have increased carbon dioxide, of course, plants would love that, because plants need carbon dioxide to synthesize sugar through photosynthesis. So these conditions enabled successful plant cultivation and So that eventually led to agriculture. So what was cultivated when agriculture started? So humans usually they cultivate a multi-purpose crop, meaning it has more than a single product. For example, coconut. So you have could be used as food. The endosperm, the white thing, the white meat is actually endosperm of the seed. You have fiber from the leaves. You have building material from the stem of the coconut, etc. And you have root crops. Root crops are very rich in energy, energy rich because of the carbohydrate content. And root crops are quite practical because there will be always something left in the field. You don't need to harvest them, and you don't need to worry about them spoiling or decomposing because there will always be something there in the field. And root crops are easy to propagate because you can propagate them vegetatively. Unlike seeds, or unlike, for example, if you're thinking of rice, you need to start with seeds. You need to have a seedling, then you need to grow them until um, and wait for them to flower and produce seed, until you get the rice. So for root crops, you just need to, propagate them vegetatively. So it's simpler than propagating by means of seeds. Now, another group of plants are cereals, and these are rice, wheat, barley, and it's also a good source of carbohydrate. So they thought of cultivating this because it can be preserved easily because they dry. And most all cultures developed and relied on domesticated cereal, except for from those indigenous groups from the high Andes, which rely on a root crop, potato, for example. Now, we will look at domestication at the next lecture. And this is something related to agriculture because when humans decided to do a sedentary lifestyle and domesticate plants, then it gave rise to agriculture. So we will look at this interesting process of domestication in the next lecture.